Today we are in the Columbus, Ohio suburb of Hilliard.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's adventure. We are going to be checking out the early television museum.
The outside of the building looks rather unassuming.
It's a chilly day and there's lots of snow, so let's go ahead and get warm and head inside to see what type of televisions they have to look at.
When you first enter, you're greeted by their front desk area where they have the various admission prices as well as a membership option. And you can even press these buttons throughout the museum to get an audio tour. The first room you enter actually houses the newest televisions within the entire museum. By this period, color televisions had fully replaced black and white sets, and CRT TVs like these were standard in most American households. During the 1980s, videocassette recorders became widely adopted, allowing viewers to record broadcast programs and watch them later. This marked a major shift from strictly scheduled programming, and it also coincided with the growth of home video rentals. These technologies represented a turning point when viewers first began gaining more control over what they watched when, and that would later set the stage for the on-demand media landscape that followed. Next, we step a little further back in time. This giant dog is actually a papier-mâché figure that represents Nipper. He was a famous dog associated with early sound recording history. Nipper became widely recognized from the image of him listening to a phonograph, a symbol that originated in the late 1890s and was later adopted by major recording companies. The image of Nipper the dog, often titled His Master's Voice, was used as a trademark by companies like Victor Talking Machine Company and later RCA, becoming one of the most iconic logos in media history. Figures like these were commonly used for advertising and displays, helping connect audiences with the emerging technology of recording sound. Even a simple but large papier-mâché version like this reflects how influential Nipper's image became, symbolizing the relationship between people, sound, and the machines that brought recorded audio into everyday life. First, we take a look at these early British electronic sets. These television sets represented some of the first fully electronic systems developed in the 1930s, marking a major step forward from early mechanical television designs. Unlike mechanical systems, which relied on spinning discs, these sets use cathode ray tubes, or CRTs, to produce a clear and more stable image. In the United Kingdom, regular television broadcasting began in 1936 through the BBC, making it one of the very first countries to establish a public television service. Early broadcasts alternated between mechanical and electronic systems, but electronic television quickly proved superior and became the standard. These sets were still experimental and expensive, often owned only by a small number of households. Screens were typically very small, sometimes only a few inches across, and the image quality was limited by today's standards. Despite that, they represented cutting-edge technology at the time. What makes these British sets especially important is their role in establishing the technological foundation for modern television. The shift to electronic imaging made higher resolution, more reliable broadcasting possible, setting the stage for the rapid expansion of television after World War II. In the United States, early electronic television development followed closely, with companies like RCA investing heavily in the technology during the late 1930s. American sets were often larger and designed with consumer markets in mind, especially as experimental broadcasts expanded in major cities like New York. Although widespread adoption was delayed by World War II, these early American electronic sets helped push television from a laboratory concept into a commercial product, setting up the rapid growth of television in the post-war era. This unique combination unit from 1947 brings together a 15-inch Emerson television and a Seeburg jukebox, designed specifically for use in bars. Only a small number were ever made, likely in the New York City area, making it a rare example of early entertainment technology. The first model in the room that caught my attention was this one here, the picture phone. It was actually a newly experimental system, and in order to test it, the public was invited to place calls between a special exhibit at Disneyland and the New York World's Fair. In both locations, visitors were carefully interviewed after by market research agencies. Here is the second model in the series, which came out in 1956. This gorgeous 1959 model was sure fun to take a look at, and it also highlighted the transition from more of a wood-based television to a predominantly plastic one. There were a lot of 1950s and 1960s televisions to take a look at. An item that particularly caught my attention was this Knox Telecaster. This device was made in the 60s or 70s and was used to project an image from the television to a 13-inch set onto a screen. Then we come to this Philco Tandem Predicta, an iconic and highly collectible mid-century television. At the time, it was actually advertised as Put the Picture Anywhere, coming with a 25-foot cable. In the back of this hallway, they had two ginormous units. The first was an RAC Clubman on the right, and the reddish maroon unit on the left was a US Television T530. The RCA Clubman was designed for the Knickerbocker Club in New York. Next, I wanted to highlight some of the really cool television advertising that they had here. Early television advertising played a major role in introducing the technology to the public and building trust in these new devices. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, companies promoted not just TVs themselves, but also the innovations behind them. Brands like RCA Victor highlighted advances such as color televisions, while Philco focused on the quality and their electronic tubes. They even had this actual Zenith television cardboard box that it originally came in. Early television cameras relied on devices called camera tubes to turn light into an electrical signal that could be broadcast on TVs. One of the most important types was the orthicon tube, which became popular in the 1940s and 1950s for its high sensitivity and ability to capture clear images even in low light. These tubes were the eyes of television, helping studios and newsrooms bring live images into homes long before digital cameras existed. Next, this section covers the history of picture tubes, or CRT, cathode ray tube displays. They were the heart of televisions in the 1950s, converting electrical signals back into visible images. Tubes like the 14AP4, the 15GP22, and the 20BP4 represented different sizes and capabilities, from small tabletop sets to large console models. Next, we come to the Kuba Comet, which is easily my favorite set in the entire museum, mostly because it just looks so fabulous. This 1950s European television is a perfect example of mid-century style. With its sleek design and neatly integrated control knobs, unlike the big boxy consoles you often see, the Comet feels built to fit right into a stylish living room. It's got that clean, modernist look you'd expect from a post-war design, all that warm wood and those simple lines. It really creates a sense of balance that makes it feel almost like furniture and art as much as it is a technology. And just standing next to it, you can see why people fell in love with TVs like this in the 1950s. The museum also had a lot of different exposed technologies that you could take a look at to really examine how they work. This one was a field sequential camera. And this color tone adapter, which was made in 1950, allowed black and white sets to receive CBS field sequential color broadcasts in black and white. This RCA Coloramo device was made in the early 1960s and it allowed dealers to display color TVs on their showroom with a split screen between black and white and color. This prototype design was created to find out whether dealers would buy them in order to help sell their new colored sets. But apparently, RCA ended up not going forward with this product. This next item was particularly interesting to me. It is a drugstore tube tester. In the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, many drugstores had tube testers for use by the public to diagnose failures in their TV sets. Customers would remove tubes from their sets and bring them into the store to test. If a tube was found to be bad, the store had a stock of tubes to sell them. Since many tubes work well even when weak, customers often bought tubes that didn't really fix their sets, and some testers were even rigged to show good tubes as being bad. This unusual set, the Sightmaster Americana, was made in 1948, and the glass is a half-silvered mirror hiding the TV screen when it's turned off. And probably my second favorite piece in the entire collection, this Stromberg Carlson post-war television. It looks like it totally would fit right in a Frank Lloyd Wright house. And here we enter the final room in the museum where we explore the evolution of broadcast cameras from the 1960s through the late 1970s. Here we have a 1962 GPL Vidicon, one of the earliest video cameras used for studio production. It was a favorite for black and white broadcasts during the 1960s. Its compact design and improved light sensitivity were big steps forward for live television. And moving on, you can see the RCA TK30A and the RCA TK60, both iconic American studio cameras. These were used extensively in newsrooms, talk shows, and live programming. The TK30A was reliable and fairly versatile, while the TK60 offered better performance and more advanced controls, helping camera operators capture sharper images and handle studio lighting more efficiently. And then there's the RCA TK41 color camera. A landmark in television history, it was introduced in the late 1950s and widely used throughout the 60s. The TK41 helped usher in the era of color broadcasts. Its large, imposing body and mechanical complexity are typical of the period, and seeing it in person really reminded me of shows like Columbo, that kind of classic television that you can imagine being filmed with cameras like these. These cameras weren't just machines, they defined the look and feel of television for over a decade. And each model in the room tells a story about the technical innovation, the artistry of camera operators, and the growing ambition of television products during this golden age of broadcasting. Next, we have this RCA remote television production van that was used by WGSF-TV, the educational station in Newark, Ohio. It was originally built in 1948 and owned by KDYL in Salt Lake City. It was purchased by WGSF in 1969 and brought all the way back to Ohio in support of local broadcasts. Inside, much of the original gear remains, including the RCA TK38 cameras and the microwave link system that allowed the station to send live video back to the studio. While WGSF used this van for everything from local sports and parades to school events and community programs throughout the early 1970s, it really stood out for bringing TV production out of the studio and directly into the community. After the station closed, the van was donated to the Ohio Historical Society and is now on display here at the Early Television Museum. It is a rare surviving example of the mobile technology that helped shape early remote television coverage. On the way out of the room, in the corner, they had this RCA field strength test antenna and meter. This antenna was made in 1939, and they were used by television stations to make measurements of their transmitter's field length. They even had this Zenith employee uniform. There was just so much here to take a look at and explore. It was really hard to choose which pieces to highlight for the video.
And that was the Early Television History Museum. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did and got to learn a lot. It was really fun seeing all those different designs and styles of television to really see just how far we've come. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe for more, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!